Welcome to Ask GMBN Tech. This is our 30th show, so this is great. So it's a weekly show where you guys get to send in your questions about technical related mountain bike stuff, and hopefully we can give you a decent answer so you learn some understanding of bikes. To get your entries in, send them to the email address that's on the bottom of the screen there, or you can add them in the comments below. Please use the hashtag AskGMBNTech so we can make it real easy to identify your questions. So jumping straight in with Elias Sandal is, what is the downside of using a 7, 8, 9, 10 speed chain breaker on an 11 speed chain? I've got on the toolkit and I don't know if I'm supposed to use it. Essentially with chain tools, Elias, they're fairly similar things, but chains of course are very different. So a 12 speed chain is a lot narrower than a 7 speed chain. Basically it's got to do a lot more, it's got to have flex built into it, it's got to fit in between all those smaller gearings, and there's a lot more for it to do than an older 7 speed chain. Now whilst you can break almost any chain with any chain tool, putting them back together again, i.e. rejoining them, driving the pin through, can be a bit more difficult when you're using the incorrect compatibility on a chain tool, because if the jaws don't line up properly, it's not going to allow you to drive the pin back through. Now if I pick up this Park one for example, I'll show you what I mean by that. If I just undo this, now you'll see on here the jaws on this one are actually movable, and that is because it's compatible with virtually all size chains. I mean, I think there's 2 or 3 that it's not compatible with. They're probably like Campagnolo stuff because they're a bit bizarre. As an Italian company, they make stuff that's a bit different. But this is compatible with 12 speed chains backwards all the way down. So because of that, that's essentially the thing that makes the difference. Now, it does depend on the particular chain tool that you do have. Now, those made by major manufacturers like Shimano, Park, Topeak, stuff like that, generally tend to be pretty accurate, but there's a hell of a lot of them on the market by other people that are a bit vague. They might sell them as an 8 speed, but you might find it works really well on 10 and 11 speed. And it's something that you won't know until you actually try it and see if it lines up yourself. Essentially, if it lines up and it works, happy days, you can use it to split and rejoin the chain. These days, bear in mind, it's a lot easier and potentially safer to use a joining master link. Now, these are available to fit most size chains on the market, and it's as simple as splitting your chain until you've got 2 same joins basically on there, putting the master link in and pull it into place. It's a really simple tool-free system basically of joining a chain, and it's also very safe because let's just say on a chain you've got the outer plates and you've got those inner plates and then you've got the rollers on the middle. The idea of using a chain tool on a chain to rejoin a chain is you lay the chain into the jaws here and you drive the pin all the way back through, but the pin has to sit all the way into that second outer plate, and if it's not quite in there, that will be a weak link of a chain, and it's a matter of time before under tension that pops out and basically your chain will snap. Now if the chain snaps when you're pedaling, you could be lucky, you could just be sat down and it snaps and nothing really happens other than the inconvenience. But if your chain snaps when you're pedaling under load, like out the saddle sprinting for example, you're going to go over the handlebars, and it will always happen at the one time you will never ever expect it, and it could be a really bad crash. So just take care, make sure your chain tool does line up, and then you're good to go. Next up is brake cleaning related from Raymond Pacalan. Hey Doddy, nice videos. Thank you, Raymond. I want to ask if I can use contact cleaner in cleaning disc brake pads and rotors. I want to know what shop towel you use in your maintenance videos as well. Hopefully you'll answer this question. Yeah, of course. So basically, got some brake cleaner here and some contact cleaner here. They're very similar things and they both have isopropyl alcohol in them. Now, contact cleaner is probably the least offensive of those things. It's probably not going to clean your brake pads as well as a dedicated brake cleaner, which has more solvent in it. But obviously the benefit of a contact cleaner is you can get it anywhere. Loads of brands make contact cleaner, and it's obviously safe for use on electrical stuff like the ignition of your car, if you've got water in there perhaps, like any sort of number of places, and it's obviously safe for use on circuitry. Now brake cleaner, although it has got isopropyl alcohol in it, it's a bit more aggressive, and although I'm sure there are some out there that are compatible with electrical stuff, I don't think this particular one is, and I think a lot of them will be a bit too aggressive to use on sort of delicate plastics like on a circuit board for example. So in answer to your question, yes, you can use contact cleaner. Brake cleaner will be better, but essentially the isopropyl alcohol is what's in them that will do the job. Also make sure you use some rubber gloves for the job, you know, some sort of nitrile style gloves, because you don't want that stuff getting on your hands for too long because it's quite nasty stuff, and also you don't want the oils in your skin sort of just transferring over to those brake pads because that can contaminate them. As for the shop towel, here's some of it here. There's loads of different ones on the market. They're all quite industrial items. This particular one is made by a brand called Scott's. you'll have seen this in garages and any sort of traditional workshops. You can buy it at trade places, you can buy it on Amazon in bulk, which is what we do, but there's loads of different brands out there. Now the reason we like this one over some of the massive rolls that you get is those bigger rolls tend to be a slightly softer paper and they don't go as far even though you get more. These ones, I think the Scott stuff is really quite tough. I particularly like it. It's one of my favourites because you can reuse it quite well. So there you go, Scott's shop towel. All right, next up is from Isaac232. Could you cut a thread into the bottom bracket on a press fit bottom bracket frame for a threaded bottom bracket to install into? No, I don't think you can. So for a threaded bottom bracket, normally the bearings are outboard, so they sit outside the shell. Now the whole point of the press fit system is the bearings are in exactly the same position, it's just they're inside the shell, which is bigger. So you could try threading that shell, but nothing's really going to happen except you'll have ruined your frame. I'm sure there might be some sort of bodge way of doing it, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it. I'd stick to the press fit it was designed for and just make sure you install it correctly and you'll have creak-free riding. All right, next up from Eric Camacho. Hi Doddy, as you know, on my last comment of my bike being stolen, yeah, actually I do remember, now I've seen your name. I've been thinking of building a bike like your bike build. But what would be better, building one with your own specs or buying a whole bike and upgrading over time? I would build one, but I feel it would take a little time, be time consuming. Love to hear your thoughts. All right, so based on the bike build that I'm doing on the Tech Show each week, bear in mind that this is just for the benefit of the show, so it's been spread out and doing it bit by bit. If that was my own personal bike, I'd have done that like in a single sitting and I'd already be riding the thing. In fact, probably be half wrecked by now. I'm taking my time with this deliberately because there's a lot to it and there's something else coming up with that bike in the next few episodes. But that said, I think personally it's one of the most fun things to do is building your own bike, and I think every cyclist, mountain bike or road cyclist, should do it once. They should build a bike from scratch because it's really, really good fun. You learn everything about your bike when you're doing it, and you also get the benefit of picking every single part that you want. However, you might not know all of those parts you want. You might just end up writing yourself a really expensive shopping list of things. So in which case, I think maybe in your case, it might be better to buy, let's just say a direct sale brand like a Common Soul, Canyon, any of those sort of brands. And you can get a really, really good frame and fork combination with a basic group set on there. And then over time, as you wear out the transmission on there, you'll have been saving up money, hopefully, at the same time, you'll have saved some money by buying the bike in that way in the first place. Start a little savings account on the side there, and over time when you're riding the bike, let's just say you wear out your chaining cassette, when you go to replace them, you upgrade them with the next ones up. And then as time goes on, you end up with a bike with a lot better componentry on there. Now the only thing to add if you're going to do this is obviously the frame is important because that's the thing that you're intending on keeping. So make sure the frame is something you really like and really want. Make sure it's something that you're likely to grow with. So if you're still growing, for example, make sure there's enough room in there to grow with the bike physically. And also make sure it's got a decent warranty on it. Because if you're going to have it for a long time, you want to make sure that anything can be covered by the manufacturer if it's their issue that arises. The other thing to factor in is some of the componentry on there. So the transmission doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. You will wear that out in time and you can upgrade it for better stuff. Makes no odds. The wheels, even the heavy wheels, you can save up and buy light wheels. That's no problem. The tyres you will wear out, or you can sack them off to get tyres that suit your local riding terrain straight away. But when it comes to the suspension fork and the shock on there, quite often some of the budget models that are fitted on budget bikes to keep that price point down, you can't do much with the internals on them. So make sure that when you buy your bike, you get the best possible fork and shock in there that you can afford. And that means you'll be able to adjust that fork. You can alter things later, like the progression of the spring in there. You can change the damping cartridge in there if you want to get a more high performance out of it. Just something you can grow with, just like you would with the frame. So if you concentrate on getting a good fork, good shock, good frame, the rest of it you can do over time as you learn more as well, actually with your saving up too. So hopefully you've got something out of this, and keep us in the loop with what you buy. Really interested actually. Okay, this one sounds like a bit of a shopping list question. So from Bugboy152000. Doddy, can you help me find the right tools to disassemble my race face effect cranks for a deep clean? I'd like to completely break down my Santa Cruz before winter storage this year. As far as I know, there's nothing particular about those cranks any different to any others. So you're going to need an 8mm Allen key to remove the crank from the bike. you will need either, which I haven't got to hand, either a Torx T25 or a 5mm Allen key to remove whether it's a spider or the actual direct chainring from that crank. You'll need a BB tool, which is like one of these type things to take the bottom bracket out of the bike. You are going to need potentially a mallet just to shock those cranks or the axle. Softer ending or a rubber ending is a good idea so you don't damage the axle on there. You're going to need grease for when you put stuff back together. You're going to need thread lock when you do that as well. You're going to need shop towel and some sort of gloves to protect your hands. And then you're going to need some powerful degreaser. And like I always recommend, keep hold of things like old ice cream tubs or any sort of plastic vessels, in particular black plastics that can't be recycled, so you may as well use them anyway for stuff like this. Anything like that is great for putting a degreaser in and putting those bits in and giving them a good clean. Old toothbrushes, if you want to save a bit of cash, they're great for sort of whittling in there and getting all the crap out of stuff. And there you go. That's it. It's nothing particularly fancy you need, just those decent tools, and crack on with it. All right, this is quite a cool one. So this is from Mains Man. You being me, you using a torque wrench reminded me of something I've been meaning to ask for a while. I know it's recommended to always store a torque wrench at the lowest setting, but does this apply to a Park ATD? I assume it does, and I tend to set mine to 4 Nm after use, but I can't find anything to confirm it online. I could just ask Park, of course, but figure you might know this. Actually, I've not seen any literature that says this. And I do think it might be different with the ATD, which is one of these little fellas. If you haven't seen these before, it's got adjustable torque settings on here, and it's got bits in the handle. This is the older one, this is the ATD 1. I think there's a 1.2 now, which has a few extra features on there. Magnetic bit holder, so you don't lose your bits. It's an alternative to the classic sort of ratcheting handle ones. Now, as far as I know, the ratcheting handle ones, you do need to always reset these, but not to 0. I think it's like the lowest torque setting on there, and it's because it's got a ratchet on there, basically. It's because of the way it works internally. Now, bear in mind that these are a little bit different. When you reach your torque setting on these, they do sort of click, but you can continue to use them. I think that's why it's important, so you relieve the pressure on the internal system on these. The ATDs are a bit different, just the way they work. You can't actually over tighten them. It's just like a click stop. You can't over tighten that whatsoever. I'm fairly sure these are okay. I don't doubt that leaving it on 4 Nm like this one is right now is a good idea. In this particular workshop, I know that these are used all the time. All the torque wrench stuff is, particularly with our friends on GCN and GTN, because they've got a lot of carbon fibre delicate cockpit bits on a bike, so they obviously have to make sure they don't over tighten those. On the mountain bike side of things, I personally use these quite a lot. I don't know about the other guys, but we use them enough that I don't think it's a concern for us storage. I think it's more long-term storage that you could damage a conventional torque wrench. But I will ask Park, and in fact, I do think we have a special guest come to visit us from Park later this year. So I'll keep you posted on that, because I think we might be doing some cool stuff with Calvin. Okay, next one's tyre related from CSO. My new bike's got a 35mm rim width with plus tyres on it. Can I use 2.4 tyres, or do I need a smaller rim? You can use 2.4 tyres, but not all of them. So just for example, in the past I've had the Ibis 741 rims, which I think they're 40 or 41mm external and 35 internal, so they're a really, really wide rim. I've used those with 2.3s, 235s, 2.4s and 2.5s, no problem, but not all tyres work. Now, a tyre with a squarer profile generally, you put them on a wider rim and they become even squarer, which for cornering when you're really aggressive is a good thing. However, it makes them really flat on the top. So A, it increases the friction when you're just riding, and B, makes for a really horrible transition from the top part of the tread to the side knobbles. It's very much a nothing happens and then you're all cornering, which means it can break loose quite easily, despite the fact it's got a really good shoulder for support. So it does vary on the tyres that you're using on your particular bike. If you've got a slightly rounder tyre profile, these can actually can handle a lot more like a more aggressive, squarer profile tyre by using them on a wider rim. So I think you kind of have to try it and see, to be honest, or at least maybe ask some other riders on your particular tyres to see what they've done with theirs. But yep, you can, just not with all tyres. Okay, and the last one up is a clutch related one from Clemens. Hey guys, loving your show. Guess I have 70% of my mechanical skills off your channel. Oh man, that's really cool. So you're actually working on your bike yourself. That's rad to hear. I do have a question concerning my drivetrain though. I run a 1x11 Shimano XT drivetrain. I've got my gears indexed correctly and the shifting is snappy and on point. No rubbing or scratching from the chain whatsoever until I engage my clutch. When I'm on top of the trail and engage the derailleur's clutch, the lower 3 to 4 gears are not working quite as smoothly and the chain's rubbing against the next cog. Any tips? Honestly, I've never heard of a clutch affecting the way a gear shift other than you can feel slightly more force through the lever when you're actually shifting. Firstly, I find it unusual that you're running your clutch off and then just turning it on for descent. I would just personally just leave it on the whole time. Have advantage of that. I would also, assuming that your gears are set up correctly in the first place, i.e. you've done your high and low limit screws, you've done your B tension, which is a swing tension on that rear derailleur, and you've got it all adjusted with the correct cable tension on there. Try setting it up again, re-indexing your gears, but with the clutch on. Try that same thing again, use those smaller gears and take the clutch off. And if it affects it, which I'm pretty sure it won't, then you know what the issue is. But I find it strange that there's even an issue in the first place, to be honest, and it would suggest to me, because what a clutch does is put more tension on the lower cage there, that something is loose. So something could be loose on your derailleur, perhaps a jockey wheel or guide wheel, so check those. Even the actual main hanger bolt might be loose, but I can't imagine it's ever going to really affect your gear. So I think you have to do a process of elimination there to try and find it. Let us know though, Clee, because that is an odd one. I've not heard that before. Okay, so there's the end of another Ask GMBN Tech. Hopefully I answered some of your questions. Get yours in the comments below and fire them into the email address that was on the screen at the beginning. For a couple more cool videos, click down here for our press fit BB maintenance video. That is to, not just for press fit, but help you eliminate sort of creaks and groans, but I use a press fit as an example in that video. And click down here for our evolution of Mavic hubs. It's a bit of a story. I think it's quite cool and it's got a lot of information in there. As always, click on the round globe to subscribe to GMBN Tech and tell all your mates that don't subscribe to subscribe. And if you like asking questions about tech, give us a thumbs up.